Now, before we go any further, I want to quiz you on your terminology with operant conditioning. Make sure that you've got a good handle on that. So I want you to try to answer these correctly without your notes, okay? Just see if you can do it. So you're going to pause after each question, and here's your first one. Bailey throws a fit at the grocery store. As a result, her favorite stuffed animal is put up for a day. So which of those four terms describe this consequence to behavior? Pause the video here. And the answer is negative punishment. So this is definitely a punishment, right? You can trust your intuition on that, but something's been taken away. So it's negative punishment, right? Here's your next one. Jake does well on his handwriting assignment, so his teacher adds a smiley face sticker to the top of his page. Pause the video here. And the answer is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement. Clarissa earns A's on all of her homework, so she doesn't have to do the last one. Pause the video here. And the answer is negative reinforcement. Finally, Tyler yells at his puppy for soiling the carpet. Pause the video here. And the answer is positive punishment. So this is definitely punishing, but he's yelling at the puppy. He's giving the puppy a yell, right? All right. Next one, negative reinforcement increases or decreases the chances that a behavior will reoccur. Pause the video here. And the answer is increases, because you can always rely on this word, right? You can trust that word, reinforcement. Reinforcement is going to increase the chances. And then finally, Katie is caught driving under the influence of alcohol and her license is taken away. This is an example of which of the following. Pause the video here. And the answer is negative punishment. And here's my favorite example of operant conditioning. This is a little clip from an episode of what show? How many of you know? It's just Big Bang Theory. Here we go.
Are you finished?
Well, thank you. How thoughtful. Would you like a chocolate?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh, sorry, Sheldon. I almost sat in your spot.
Did you? I didn't notice. Have a chocolate.
Thank you.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. You'll never guess who they got to replace you with.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I don't want it. Sheldon, you can't train my girlfriend like a lab rat.
Actually, it turns out I can.
All right. So moving on to Bandura now. Moving on to Bandura. Do you remember what very famous study he did? So do you remember from 101 or maybe another class that you took also? Very famous study that Bandura did. And if you're thinking the Bobo doll study, you are correct, because Bandura is our observational learning guide. And observational learning is learning through modeling. So we've got classical learning, classical conditioning, which is learning by trigger association. We've got operant conditioning, which is learning through reinforcement and punishment. And now we have observational learning, which is learning through modeling. So in theory, right, in theory, we should be able to watch other people's behavior and the consequences they receive and learn vicariously, right, without having to go out and make all those mistakes ourselves, in theory. All right. Now, so Bandura did the famous Bobo doll study. In case you don't remember that, let's quickly review it. I want to remind you that, remember, with correlational research, we do not know cause, right? It doesn't tell us cause. It just tells us whether there's a relationship between two variables, not which one causes the other, right? We don't know which way that causal arrow goes. But, and this was a real question, in Bandura's time, the question of, does aggressive television, watching aggressive television programming, actually cause kids to act more aggressively? And they had shown a relationship over and over, but they couldn't show causation. In other words, you might think, well, if there's a relationship there, it's got to be the aggressive programming that's making the kids act more aggressively. But if you think about it, it's just as logical the other way around. Maybe more aggressive kids choose to watch more aggressive television programming. Okay? And you're not going to find out the answer to that one without doing an experiment. And it was trickier than what you might have thought, coming up with an experiment, which is why it took them a while. And it took until Bandura to do this, because Bandura actually had to come up with a brand new product on the market that kids had not seen any models interact with yet on television, in commercials, or hadn't watched other kids play with yet. And he found that with the Bobo doll. And if you're not familiar with the Bobo doll, it is kind of life-sized. Here's a picture of a model hitting one. Okay, so it's kind of life-sized for a kid. It's shaped kind of like a human being, or you might think more like a bowling ball, but it's got a face on it like a human being. And it's kind of like a balloon, except a thicker rubber. And there's a weight in the bottom here, okay, so that if left alone, the thing is going to stand upright, okay. And what they did in this study is they brought in a large number of children and randomly assigned them to which videotape they would watch. And they either watched this one where the model is playing with the Bobo doll in an aggressive way, punching it out, or they watched another tape where the model played with the Bobo doll in a non-aggressive way. For instance, dressing it up in a cowboy hat and vest, or dancing with it, and so on. Okay, so then later on, they take these kids one at a time and they put them in a room with the Bobo doll, alone with the Bobo doll, just to see how they're going to play with it, to see if the ones who had seen the model punching out the Bobo doll were more aggressive in their behavior also. And of course, you might remember that is what they found. Hey, and I'll tell you something, this doesn't even look that aggressive to me, right? I'm not sure that this woman really has a dinner, but wow, look at this little kid go who had seen her. Look where the level she took it to. This little girl certainly has a dinner. Hey, now these might be cute pictures, but it really has a serious take-home message, right? That watching aggression on TV can increase kids' aggressive behavior. Now, so that's a great display of observational learning. Bandura is also very famous for something else that's going to come to play here in our study of personality, and that is the concept of self-efficacy. So, self-efficacy. Now, this always reminds me of a refrigerator magnet that my mom had when I was growing up. That must be a mom thing, right? Refrigerator magnets. But it read, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Good way to remember self-efficacy. And this is going to become very important later on as we look at Bandura's work. Here's my favorite example of observational learning, also known as vicarious learning. Okay, so they're hoping, that people will learn vicariously by watching this commercial, right? All right. Here we go. This is an overview of what's coming up ahead, because on our next segment, we're going to start some really interesting research from the behavioral approach. And we're going to start out with some great therapies that resulted from behaviorist research. So behavioral modification therapies, many different kinds we're going to look at. A couple kinds that came from the idea of operant conditioning, and a couple kinds from classical conditioning, and even from observational learning. Okay. We're also going to look at the special case of binging. So somebody who quit smoking may suddenly binge one day, right? Or somebody who is trying to cut down on their eating might find themselves binging someday. And what do the behaviors have to say about that? How can they inform us on that special situation? We're going to look at infant bonding. Okay, some of you might have learned this before as infant attachment. So sometimes it's called bonding, sometimes attachment. But how that plays out in adult relationships, really interesting. And then we're going to look at androgyny. What is androgyny, right? So that's your coming attraction for the rest of the segments, lecture segments from the behavioral approach.